do. And she said, I love to see a young girl go out and grab the world by its lapels. Life's a bitch. You've got to go out and kick ass. So who was that? Maya Angela, of course. And this young lady, listen. She was a world university debater and was ranked the #1 public speaker in the world, 2011 to 2012, by the World Universities Debate Championships. She is the recipient of the UWI Premier Award for Leadership 2012, the UWI Premier Award for Culture 2011. She was selected to represent Jamaica at the 9th sitting of the Commonwealth Youth Parliament in 2012, where she was ranked Best Youth Parliamentarian. Wow. Krystal Tomlinson is a 24-year-old media practitioner, student, and social researcher. She holds a Bachelor of Science in International Relations, Political Science, and African Diaspora Studies, and is currently pursuing a Master's of Science in Natural Resource Management, specializing in urban and rural environment planning. What a broad spectrum. A former Miss Jamaica Festival Queen and Youth Ambassador for Vision 2030 Jamaica, Krystal is now a Director of Public Relations for the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment, Vice President Public Relations for Advocates Jamaica, and Special Projects Coordinator for Fame 95 FM. Would you put your hands together for a PowHERHouse, Krystal Tomlinson.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I don't know why I feel so overwhelmed this morning, and I'm sorry. It's very often that I'm asked to speak, just generally speak, because I'm good at it. If somebody has an napkin, please pass me. These are not sad tears, it's actually happy and excited tears. So it's not novel for me to stand and give my opinion and share my experience and things like that. But as I sat down and I watched this presentation happening, thank you, and I began to put into context the theme, what it meant to be a powerhouse, I realized that not many of us consider ourselves powerhouses. We have power in our houses, because a lot of us are heading households, but we don't consider ourselves the owners of any real power and influence. And because of that, it sort of punctuates the way we carry ourselves, the way we receive praise, and the way we take steps into unknown realms or fields of endeavor. And it's not because we don't think we're good people, or that we have a skill, or that we're important enough to get the job done. But there's something in the back of your mind at all times that says to you, I wonder if I'm good enough. And I wonder if when I take this seat or walk into a room or stand to speak, if people will receive me for the power I have. People will see that I'm here because I have a skill, or will they think it's because of my face, or because I'm that 1% that's required by whatever standard to be in the room. And we don't often recognize that these are the questions in our minds. We just realize that we start to feel nervous, and we start to question whether we're good enough, and do we have enough training, and do we have enough skill. And I hear these conversations from women more so than I do men. I have a brother, he's younger than I am. Not as trained as I am in terms of university education, but he went right up to 6th form and then went straight to the world of work. And if you invite him into an operating room to perform open heart surgery, his philosophy is I learn on the go. Just show me where I should put the sample and where I need to watch and do it. And he doesn't have the training. No. Similar to this young woman being told that you're being nominated, she didn't even get the job yet, you know. A friend is telling her that I think you can do it, and I'm going to tell somebody else that you can do it. And there is immediate doubt and fear and wonderment amidst the excitement of the potential to do something great. But every woman should have that approach that my brother has, which is just show me where the interview is happening and I will be dressed, spray on some perfume, put on some lipstick, and I'm ready to go. I find that we don't have that approach in general. There are women like that. There are mornings when I feel that way. And there are mornings when I just cannot be bothered to have to prove and to speak loud enough and stern enough, because I feel as though I'm trying to prove something that is a fact. And it's the worst thing to stand among educated people and have to prove a fact to them. So as long as women in positions of leadership remains something novel, we have a problem. As long as it's something that we have to point and go, oh, look at that over there, it's a problem. It is now a regular visual sound to hear of a Jamaican winning a race. This is normal. It is not novel. And that means that we have gotten ourselves to the standard where the United States, Canada, Russia, England consider us equals, at least in sprints. It is not novel or foreign or new anymore. Unfortunately, when we speak of leadership in Jamaica and in the Caribbean and put women in positions of leadership, real leadership, it becomes novel. And although we have to celebrate it, we can't allow it to go unnoticed and unrecognized, the fact that we have to celebrate it for it not to be recognized is a problem. I did some reading over the last week to get an idea of where women stand in the world and how the world is responding to women's issues. And I came upon a fact that's specific to the United States of America, and I thought I'd raise it because it was put into law by Barack Obama, and his recent visit here addressed a lot of issues, but it didn't speak to the work he had done for women in America. One of the first bills that President Obama signed into law, the first bill, was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which helps women fight back when they are paid less than men. And one of the women who spoke on the campaign trail about why this was important and why we need to support the bill and why it is of importance to every woman, she made the point that she did not know she was being paid less than male counterparts until somebody slipped her a note. Just kind of on the table said, you know, you might not know this, but you're not getting the same amount of pay as your male counterparts. So we take for granted that because we don't know something is happening, it's okay. If I'm being paid $4 to a man's $10, which is what it is in the Caribbean, we get paid 40% of what men get paid in Latin America and the Caribbean. Because we can make $4 stretch, it's alright. We don't know what it's like to have $10, so we're going to make it work. And it has become the definition of a woman to work with less. Not because we deserve less, but because we don't know how to command the additional 60%. And so we hear a lot about what, well, I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but there's something called the feminization of poverty. If you think of, just think of poor people in the news in Jamaica and tell me who you see on television.
Justice.
Who is it that wants justice? Who is it in the markets? Who is it that's on the streets as vendors and higglers? Who is it that's on television asking you to give a donation to the son or daughter who has an illness, who's being put out of a house because we can't pay the rent, who is living on the side of the street out of a box? It's women. And we use those images to say that women are strong because we go through this. We don't have a choice. At least not socially. And it's difficult for any government to try and address an issue that is what a colleague of mine would call a hydra kind of issue, where it has so many tentacles and issues and problems coming at you from different directions. It's hard for you to know which head to cut off first, which one second, how to watch to make sure this one don't grow back, and then move on to the other 5. Because the facets that inequality feed into are so plenty. But it doesn't mean you don't start. And one of the things I often ask my female peers and ask myself to do is to mentor. It is so important for a young woman to meet somebody that she looks up to. most role models that women have or girls have are other females. Because they see themselves in those positions of power. So Miss Kitty can tell you, when she go on her high school tour, there are a lot of young girls who want to do what she's doing. Politicians have that experience as well. The senators we have in the room can tell you about women who now want to be in positions of political prominence because they've seen them do it. And you've kept it classy, and you've kept it professional, and you've kept it meaningful. But how often do we approach those young women? We often depend on them to come to us and tell us how much they like us. And it's gratifying on some level to know that somebody has recognized what you're doing and thinks it's important enough to want to emulate it. But when do we go to find those women? So I was very heartened to hear in the overview of the project that you had dealing specifically with training women into leadership. Because society trains us out of it. The issue of sexual and reproductive rights. It is so personal for women that we don't often like to talk about it. We don't want to explain to you why I want to have a child now. And why I think it's time for me to have a boyfriend or a husband or a partner of any sort. And why we don't want to have one. Those conversations are hard to have because immediately we start to pronounce judgments on the body of a woman. It is what we have, it is ours, it is beautiful, it is powerful, but guess what? It is mine. And I must understand, first of all, why I use it the way I use it. Not a lot of women understand why they use it the way they use it. They just know that they've been cultured to use it that way. And then we have to know how to keep control of our bodies. It took a while for me to become pro-choice on the issue of abortion because I grew up in a Christian home. And I couldn't understand why a woman would get a child, but so many women out there want children and not want to keep it. It's evil. And I use some very strong words to denounce women who even thought choosing not to have a child, even after being impregnated, was some slap in the face of God or the universe. And it is through exposure and experience that the views begin to change. Because when you are put in a position to make decisions about your body, educated decisions about your body, that gives you power. It helps you to think through the options that you have. When you don't have an option, you settle for 40% of the 100%. Yes. But if you do have an option, education, training, mentorship, exposure to what is happening in the world, you then begin to open up those other choices that you have in your mind and consider them a little bit longer. I am not satisfied that so many young girls, and we call it teenage pregnancy, and we want to call it teenage parenthood. Why so many young girls are left to raise children on their own? Why my mother raised me as a single parent, and half of the girlfriends I had in schools, it was only their mothers, and it was okay. Why is it not equally okay if the mother were to not want to raise her child? Because we see those things as womanly responsibilities. And so it is no surprise that even though you have a 48% of women in the workforce, so many of them are doing, I won't call them menial jobs because every job has meaning. Yes. But why is it low wage jobs? Why are we the secretaries? Why are we the domesticated part of the workforce? Because it is natural and normal? No. And I battled coming here today with the point of all of this. And how important it is for people to act decisively and with purpose on issues like women's rights. I am happy that we have a female Prime Minister. I don't want it to be novel anymore. So with the door having been opened, who now is being primed and mentored and trained and prepared to take up the reins of one of the most powerful positions in our country? And it starts, as I said earlier, from this question of mentorship, and it happens in adolescence. There's a lifetime of inequity that women go through, from in the womb in Asian countries more so than ours, where you would choose a female child over a male child over a female child. In the early childhood areas and aspects in places such as Africa, where if you can only send one child to school, it's going to be the boy child and the girl child is going to stay home. And in the adolescent stages, also part of those nascent stages of growing up and knowing who you are. And the Caribbean is battling with the nascent inequalities, the adolescent inequalities that women are facing. Teenage pregnancy being among the primary problems. Access to information on health care. Simple things like talking about sex for a young woman. We don't understand how not approaching things inclusively and not accepting that there is gender imbalance robs people of an opportunity to enjoy equality. Not talking about it doesn't change it. Pretending to address it through legislation without enforcing the legislation, reviewing its efficacy, improving on how we're going to execute, doesn't help the problem. It has to be comprehensive. And so I love the cross-section of women that are in this room who can then take knowledge back, who can speak and network with the other women in this room to see what their experiences are, if it's in health, if it's in entertainment, if it's in education and politics. I can use my experience in entertainment. I can use it in leadership. But let's start with my current job. I'm going to challenge you to perhaps Google the board of directors for the RGR Communications Group. I won't say anything, I'm just going to challenge you to Google the board of directors. And then I'm perhaps going to invite you to come down to the group building one day and look at who your heads of departments are, and how the women outnumber the men as heads of department, and how the women outnumber the men in terms of programming, say radio and television. But look back who is on the board of directors. Now it doesn't mean that the large number of men on the board of directors are qualified. My question is, if women are qualified to lead in the lower management strata, what is it that is not encouraging you to have them reflected in the sections that decide how much we get paid, that decide how long maternity leave is going to be, that decide the policy support? Why aren't we up there? Because we're great at executing what you want us to and exercising the power that you give us in these small departments, but we can do so much more. We can do so much more. And I don't think it's a deliberate attempt by the men in leadership to close women out. But sometimes discrimination is not locking the door, it's not opening it. That's where the problem is. The fact is, you may not have turned the key in that lock and put it under the bench, but you have to go and open the door. So we take that responsibility away from ourselves as a nation, as a society. The fact that we didn't cause it means that we don't have as much of a responsibility to reverse it. My ancestors didn't take that approach to slavery. They didn't cause the sale and transport, but they understood that it had to stop. There were also white men and women who didn't cause enslavement to happen, but some of them felt it had to stop. And that's just an extreme example. The major point here is, if you are experiencing discrimination in any form, if you are observing discrimination in any form, it is your responsibility to address that. Yes. Write a letter. If it never gets published, keep writing. Copy and paste the same letter and send it every week. There is somebody who has a job of opening that letter and being annoyed at you every day. At some point, somebody will listen. They say knock and the door will be answered, and some people tell you kick it down, they will build a new one. But if you really want something and you want to get in, you have to just get up and do it. And I'm always empowered and encouraged when I see women in positions of power who just go for it. It's not the nicest, most polite and ladylike thing to do, but you just go for it, because it has to be done. It might forget. And so long as you wait on somebody to bring it to you, which we don't do in any other aspect of our lives. We don't do it in any other aspect of our lives except when it's time to get power. You want a man, you go for it. Let's talk about it. You need some money to do your hair and your nails, you go for it. Your children are at school.